girls in their teens or 20s. The paper called him the Charlottesville Stabber, but we called him Stabby. And whenever we went out in the woods, we'd tease each other that Stabby was going to get us. On the car ride, I kept poking Stacy in the ribs to make her shriek, and then I'd yell, "Stabby!" When we got there, we roasted hot dogs and drank beer and had a good time, and I could tell Stacy was kind of loosening up. Bean moved closer to her, and she didn't move away. And then he put his arm around her, and she didn't stop him. The night got colder, and she actually snuggled up against him a little bit. Then Bean winked at me, and I turned and started kissing Tommy, and I heard Bean say, "Let's go for a walk and give them a little privacy." Then I heard them both walk off toward the creek. I didn't love Tommy, but I liked fucking him, and since we both lived in houses full of kids and stepdads, we were pretty used to doing it on the ground at the campsite, or in the backs of pickup trucks, or on football fields, or wherever we could get a minute to ourselves. So we were all sweaty and happy and pulling on our clothes when Bean came walking out of the bushes by himself with a look on his face I'd never seen before. "We need to leave," he said. "Why?" I asked. "What's the matter? Where's Stacy?" "She went off to pee," he said, "and then I couldn't find her. I called and called. I looked all over." "We can't just leave," I said. I started calling Stacy's name. Bean took my arm. He looked at me, and I saw fear in his eyes for the first time. "I think we need to get the police," he said. "I mean, I'm sure she just got lost or something, but in case—" He trailed off, but I knew what he meant. None of us wanted to bring up the Stabber's silly nickname. I told Bean to give me another minute, and I walked just a few steps outside the campsite, but I started to get scared, and we all drove to the police station where we told our stories to Officer Gray, who spent most of his time breaking up our parties or arresting my stepdad when he tried to drive home drunk from Red's on a Tuesday night. The police searched with dogs for miles around the campsite, but they didn't find her body. Sometimes a thing like that brings people together, but this just blew the three of us apart. Tommy and I didn't hook up anymore after that night. Bean didn't come to high school parties anymore, and then he moved away without telling anybody or saying goodbye. The Stabber killed another victim, this one in South Carolina. I felt the joy drain out of me. I dropped out of high school, left my sisters and my brother to fend for themselves, and took a job waiting tables at a pasta restaurant in Charlottesville. I'd been working there about 6 months when I saw in the news that they'd found Stacy's body. She'd washed up on the shore of Moncove Lake, about a half-mile from the campsite. The police said it was probably the work of the Stabber, since Stacy fit the profile of his other victims. But they noticed a change in his MO. Stacy's neck had been snapped. Another year passed. I turned 20. I was just marking time in my life. And then, I remember it was a Friday. The restaurant was crowded with students ordering carafes of our gross wine. He showed up. He had a woman with him. A pretty, thin girl with strawberry blonde hair. She was well-dressed, well-cared for, nice skin and expensive shoes. She looked the way people look at that time in their relationship when they're absolutely sure the other person loves them and they haven't started to love that person any less yet. The hostess seated them at one of my tables, and I went to take their drink orders. I didn't even think about running away. I wanted to see what Bean ordered, what his girlfriend's voice sounded like. It was more than curiosity. As I walked over, I had the feeling of finishing something. And then he saw me, and we looked right at each other for just a moment, and he didn't look frightened at all. His face had no expression on it. For a second, I thought he might pretend not to know me, but instead he smiled wide and said, "Allison, it's been forever." "It has," I said. I didn't know what to say next. I hadn't thought beyond walking up to the table, looking at Bean, and seeing what he did. "Allison was my best friend back in Burnsville. Allison, this is my fiancée, Sarah Beth." Sarah Beth extended her hand,